3, hit it!
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. We now have 3 levels of membership of our inner circle. As a silver member for just $10 a month, you get to partake of most of the resources and you get to take part in a monthly webinar with me. As a gold member for $99 a year, you get all that plus 40% discounts on most of our programs. And then we have a new platinum membership where you can actually get free access to every program we offer under $500. So if you are interested, check them out at michaelneill.org. One of my favorite new quotes, and it's not a new quote, but it's new to me, is from Carl Rogers. And if you haven't heard Carl Rogers, he's sort of the father of the counseling field, people-centered or person-centered counseling. And he's worthy of, if you like making a difference with people with kindness, he's just a great role model. So I bump into Carl Rogers things from time to time, and I came across this quote, and I fell in love with it. Here it is. I find I am more effective when I can listen acceptantly to myself and can be myself. I feel that over the years I have learned to become more adequate in listening to myself, so that I know somewhat more adequately than I used to what I am feeling in any given moment. One way of putting this is that I feel I have become more adequate in letting myself be what I am. It becomes easier for me to accept myself as a decidedly imperfect person who by no means functions at all times in the way in which I would like to function. This must seem to some like a very strange direction in which to move. It seems to me to have value because the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I change. Now, there's a few things in there that I think are worthy of our talking about. And the first one, and this is just an interesting thing to me, is how many times he says adequate. It's like clearly his standard for himself is adequate. Good enough. Not the best, not optimal, not maximal. Just good enough. There was a Nobel Prize-winning scientist, I think his name was Herbert Simon, and he did a lot of work in the field of decision theory, and the contribution of his that made the biggest difference in my life was the word satisficing. So he talked about that the 3 strategies people have for making decisions are optimizing, trying to make things the best they can be, maximizing, trying to get the most out of everything, or satisficing. Just going for the easiest to reach acceptable solution. And while there are times in my life and in my world where optimizing or maximizing seem like a good idea, 8 times out of 10, enough is enough, and satisficing saves an incredible amount of time, energy, and attention. And so I actually quite like the idea of becoming more adequate at things. Now, the second thing I love in this quote is that he just talks about being himself. And I've found for me, I hope, listening to these, you've begun to find for you, if you didn't already know, that being yourself is where it's at. Like, being yourself is so much easier than trying to be somebody cooler than you, or better than you, or different than you, or even your best self. Because all you are is all you are. And all you are turns out to be more than enough. It's satisficing. It's adequate for almost anything that you could want to take on in your life. And one of the reasons for that, and this is the curious paradox of the title that he talks about, when I accept myself just as I am, then I change. Now, I don't know the physics of that exactly. I don't know the mechanism whereby when we suddenly stop fighting something, it flows again. But you see it echoed in all sorts of practical, psychological, spiritual teaching. What we resist persists. What we push pushes back. And when we stop pushing, it stops pushing back. When we stop resisting, it flows. And since we are alive, we are of the flow of life, we are continually evolving, continually flowing, continually learning by design. That's how we're made. But when we sort of think about it and decide, I don't like this bit, so I'm going to stop that, and I don't want this, and I want more of that and less of this, and we sort of take ourselves on as an ongoing project, all of that shaping and resisting and fighting actually makes the very things we're resisting and fighting seem stronger. Like a dam pushing against water, and the water pressure builds and builds and builds, and that's how they make hydroelectric plants, by trying to block the flow. But when you allow the flow of thought, the flow of fresh ideas, the evolution of self, naturally, not the one you're trying to impose, most of the things that you struggled with take care of themselves, and the rest stop impeding your own ability to enjoy your life, your own ability to feel happy, and your own ability to be effective in the world. And that's the curious paradox, that when you accept yourself just as you are, then you change. Have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk with you soon.